From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Montana was sued Wednesday by high-ranking female employees alleging a pervasive culture of discrimination.
And more people are dying on Montana highways this season than in the past 2 years. Coming up, learn why the Montana Highway Patrol says some simple steps could save some lives. Well, happy Thursday, Southwest Montana. You can see some sky through the haze, the clouds, and all of that. But change, the winds of change may be blowing this afternoon as well.
In a couple of different ways. Our air quality has gotten better overall. And you look at the air quality ratings right now, moderate. It's not great, don't get me wrong, but it is better. Would I start with A, so I need to go with B this time instead of 2.
Yeah.
2, it does look like we're going to see another round of smoke trying to roll back through, but it looks like things will be a little better. 50s and 60s for most of the area this morning. There may be a couple of isolated showers in a few areas, but this is really light stuff. The better potential of thunder showers coming this afternoon. This will be a mix of wet and dry thunderstorms, so fire danger is high. Erratic thunderstorm winds, very possible. May not get a lot of rain out of that initial batch of rain or thunderstorm activity moving in. Daytime highs near the 90-degree mark and then cooling off quickly for the evening, and that'll probably be the end of the 80s, at least for a day or two for a few areas. Nice. We're going to talk more about that potential cool down and how long that'll last. That's coming up in just a few minutes.
I guess we'll just stay with your sequence and we'll go to C.
Okay, do that.
For Chet. Here we go. 5:30 now. 4 current or former high-ranking female employees at the University of Montana, Missoula sued the college yesterday in federal court in Missoula. Their lawsuit says the school's administration has a pervasive culture of discrimination and retaliation against women employees, especially those who might question authority. MTN's Mike Dennison picks up the story.
I think what's important here is that the University of Montana not only created a glass ceiling for these women, they created a brick wall for their careers.
That's Hillary Carls, one of 2 Bozeman lawyers representing the 4 women who filed suit Wednesday. All 4 of the women, including a former dean of students at UM and a former vice president, say their careers suffered if they challenged what they saw as a good old boys club mentality that favored male employees. The suit also singled out UM President Seth Bodnar, saying his leadership allowed a retaliatory culture that sought to intimidate women and threaten their careers if they spoke out against certain policies. Former Dean of Students Rhonda Voorhees says her decisions to enhance security for female or other students were sometimes overruled. And former UM Vice President Catherine Cole, hired to help rehabilitate UM's image in the wake of sexual assault scandals and declining enrollment, says Bodnar micromanaged and often belittled her. The lawsuit says UM and the state university system violated Title IX, the federal law forbidding discrimination based on sex at educational institutions that get federal funds. Shireen Blackford, the other attorney representing the plaintiffs, says the law forbids a system that treats women differently in a negative way.
The way that it can be pervasive is creating a retaliatory culture, creating an environment that isn't necessarily black and white sexual harassment, but something where women don't receive the same treatment as men, and as a result, their benefits that they would have received at the educational institution where they are employed are not the same.
UM spokesman Dave Kuntz said the college and the state university system strongly believe these claims are baseless and without merit, and that the school is committed to a learning environment free from all forms of discrimination. The suit has only 4 plaintiffs now, but Carl suspects there are other female employees at UM who face similar treatment, and that they can be added to the suit as they come forward. For MTN News, I'm Mike Dennison.
Mike tells us that lawsuit seeks damages for the plaintiffs, but also a judgment from the court that the University of Montana violated Title IX and needs to change its behavior toward women employees. Staying in the university system, based on the updated guidelines from the CDC on mask wearing, Montana State University recommending all students wear face masks indoors on campus. Now, this is only a recommendation, not a mandatory requirement from the university. Officials say they hope students will take this step and help prevent the new variant from spreading in the county.
The virus is mutating, and we have to be ready to adapt ourselves. And so this recommendation makes sense given the transmission rates that the CDC is classifying Gallatin County with. And it's also just a great small step that folks can do voluntarily to help protect their fellow Bobcats.
Now, MSU says it will still offer free COVID testing and vaccines to students for as long as necessary. Well, in an interview with Dan Grossman, the Center for Disease Control Director says the Delta variant of COVID-19 outsmarted us. Now she's speaking about how new research suggests that the same amount of the variant can be found in the bodies of both vaccinated and unvaccinated people. That's making it easier to spread than previously thought. Dan Grossman takes a look at how this has changed the perception of the vaccine and what it means moving forward.
Much of what we understand about COVID-19 can be understood through droplets.
No longer have to explain what studying aerosols means to anyone, because we all know now that this virus is airborne, and those little tiny aerosols can infect you.
Droplets that environmental health professor John Volkins has studied at Colorado State University for the last 20 years. First in terms of pollution, now almost exclusively in terms of the Delta variant of the coronavirus, as he informs public health officials about its spread.
The Delta variant is no joke. Like the Alpha variant, it's more transmissible. But the unfortunate reality of Delta is it is about 50% more transmissible than Alpha. What that means is that if you have a town with 10 people who get infected in a cluster, that cluster is not going to produce 10 or 20 more infections, it's going to produce 200 more infections in a matter of days or weeks.
That exact scenario has been seen in Provincetown, Massachusetts, a small town of 3,000 residents that has led to more than 950 new COVID cases ever since the 4th of July holiday. Half of those cases are among residents, while the others are among tourists. The outbreak was so large and so surprising, it has prompted the CDC to update its mask guidance for the entire country. Nearly 74% of the Provincetown cases occurred in vaccinated people, and nearly all of those people have the same amount of virus in their bodies as those who have yet to get the vaccine.
Delta outsmarted us here.
It can be startling to hear that confession from CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky, but this is what's different. After mask guidance was eased for vaccinated people in May, it was believed that the vaccine protected people from spreading the virus about as much as it protected them from getting it in the first place. While breakthrough infections still hover around 1% nationally, those vaccinated people who get it appear to spread COVID just as easily as those who don't have the vaccine. The importance then comes in prevention of serious illness and death. Among those 950 plus Provincetown cases, no one has died and 7 people have been sent to the hospital.
And the important thing that is not different about Delta, that our vaccines seem to be working exactly as they did in the clinical trials in terms of preventing symptomatic disease and preventing severe disease and death.
I think there's a bit of a misnomer when you think I will get the vaccine and never get the virus, because what the vaccine really does is it gives your body the tools to deal with the virus when it gets in there so that it doesn't produce any bad side effects.
The new CDC guidance on wearing masks in places with substantial and high transmission, even for the vaccinated, is then primarily to protect one another, while getting vaccinated is used primarily to protect ourselves. And if these mask regulations become more widespread and reminiscent of a time before they were eased, it will be because the vaccine rates are still behind where the scientists in charge of learning about COVID think it should be to slow this virus's evolution and spread.
Get vaccinated. We know the vast majority of states that are surging have the lowest number, states and counties have the lowest amount of vaccination rates in the country. So those are very much correlated. Lots of disease in areas of low vaccination. So get vaccinated to protect yourself.
I'm Dan Grossman.
6:38 back here at home now. MTN's Marion Davidson thought the latest numbers of deaths on Montana roads seem high, discovered there has been more fatalities this year than in the past 2 years. She reached out to the Montana Highway Patrol to find out what troopers are seeing and why they think this is happening.
Any fatal crash is tragic.
Some of the things we see are things that would be in your worst nightmare.
And those tragedies are increasing. According to Highway Patrol data, 12 people died on Montana roads between July 27th and August 4th. So far this year, crashes have killed 136 people.
In recent weeks, we've had some upticks. So currently, year to date, we're roughly about 20% over the last 2 years.
We're in the middle of the 100 deadliest days on Montana roadways, the time period between Memorial Day and Labor Day. But law enforcement is noticing some concerning trends.
alcohol use. Huge increase in that, over 100% from the last 2 years. And so we're seeing an uptick in alcohol and speed, and oftentimes those go together.
There are things you can do to prevent a crash or another death on the road, like slow down, don't drink and drive, and wear a seatbelt. According to the CDC, buckling your seatbelt reduces serious crash-related injuries and death by about 50%.
I've said it my whole career for 23 years, it's the cheapest life insurance you'll ever purchase. I know people's freedoms, they can do what they want, but just putting on that seatbelt is the easiest thing you can do to prevent a fatality collision.
Finally, if you see someone driving dangerously, call it in. Information like car color, make and model, plate number, and location on the highway can help law enforcement out. Simple steps you can take to prevent another tragedy during the 100 deadliest days on Montana roads. In Helena, Marian Davidson, MTN News.
Great advice there, Marian. Thank you very much. 6:40 now. We are going to take a break. When we come back, shortage of truck drivers in the United States, so bad that companies are now looking outside our borders for drivers. Coming up, learn why companies say they need the government to step in to help solve this problem. But first, let's check in with Gail King to see what's coming up at 7 o'clock.
Good morning to you. Ahead on CBS This Morning, we're in Florida, where the state just set a record for COVID hospitalizations. Hear from locals and medical experts on what's driving the spike in coronavirus cases. Plus, a major cities allowing some fully vaccinated Americans to get an extra shot. Our Dr. David Agus will tell us whether that is necessary. Also, we'll introduce you to the Super Bowl champion and his dad, a former police officer. They're tackling police reform, why they believe officers need to learn empathy. We'll see you 7 o'clock straight up.